Okay, well, let's get things started. It's live with the Carr Brothers. It's episode 120 here on Thursday, September the 26th. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff. And
And
I
I'm
think
Jody, the third of the three Carr brothers.
there he is.
Yes, sir. So we're just very, very pleased to have everyone join us here tonight. We've got Jody, he's in St. John, and of course, Jeff. We're doing it the old-fashioned way here on Zoom. Unfortunately, we couldn't be on CHCO tonight due to unforeseen circumstances, as they say, but the show will be rebroadcast later in the week on CHCO. So we're looking forward to getting back on CHCO TV, of course. Hey, guys.
Yes, can't wait, really.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a long summer.
Well, we're right into the election. 1 week in, the debate was last night, so I figure we'll talk about the debate, how that went, what our thoughts are, and then the election so far, and what's maybe to be expected or leading up to the election on October the 21st, and then we'll talk about some of our own stories and experiences. It'll be close to 30 years that there won't be one of the Carr brothers on the ballot during a provincial election. So that's quite something. 1995 was Jode's first election, so we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show as well. But let's talk about the debate last night with the PC leader and Premier Blaine Higgs, the Liberal leader Susan Holt, and the Green Party leader David Coon. What are your thoughts, guys?
Well, I watched the whole thing. I normally don't watch leadership debates, because, and you guys will probably agree with this, over the last 30 years, we've either been campaigning as campaign managers or we've been candidates. So we just didn't ever watch them. We were doing our campaign work locally, and that's what we did. So I watched it last night. I've watched some other debates over time from other elections, and it was always used to be sort of a shouting match and people talking over one another. But last night it was just kind of the open forum. Candidates were asked questions. They were each given a little time to answer, and it was I think for the viewer probably easier to watch, maybe less frustrating than people yelling over one another. I thought it went by really quickly. I think CBC chose that format. That's their prerogative. They had the questions to ask. They asked them quickly. They were short questions, and each leader was given their time to answer. I think all the leaders had different, probably for me, they had different approaches to how they answered their questions. I don't think anybody really tripped too much. I think it was, like, as I told David Cochran today on Power and Politics, it was uneventful, really. But it was, I didn't see any clear winner. I think they all tried to answer or didn't answer. Some didn't answer the questions until when they had their chance. But I think for me, it was the closing remarks that kind of set them for each and that set them apart a little bit. There were some weird, I would say weird comments by some of them throughout, but anyway, it was fairly uneventful. What do you guys think?
Well, I agree. I don't think there was any knockout punches. It was no gaffes either, and I think that's generally, I mean, according to the polls, particularly between the Liberals and the PCs, it's fairly close. And so no huge knockout punches, but no huge mistakes. And I think that's the best you could really hope for when you come into a debate is come out clean, maintain your base support, and hopefully pick up some undecideds. I really, really did like I mentioned that on Twitter there last night, that I like the format in the fact that there was no over talking and no shouting and on top of each other. I think that's one of the most frustrating things that people say, is that when that happens, whether it's a political panel or a debate, that's very, very frustrating. But we're still very early in, too. 1 weekend, I was surprised that the debate was that early, and maybe they were in the past, but I don't remember it being that early. Very hard, I would think, for the candidates, the leaders, to be able to say too much because they still have their platform to roll out. But I don't think it'll affect the decideds. But certainly, we did see a clear difference with the three of them in many different ways to give the undecideds. Certainly something to consider on election day, and every day, I guess, you can vote. So, Jode?
Yeah, well, I did like the format. It was controlled. I liked that CBC had it structured. I liked that it did go by quite quickly. I found because of the format that maybe the leaders were less than expressive, but I did find Susan Holt talk more directly to voters, talking about you and putting you first and talking directly, which was good. I found Blaine Higgs to be quite fidgety and kind of nervous maybe, or and it's very difficult when you're the premier, you're more on the hot seat, so that's expected, but no personal jabs, which I actually preferred. They did stick to policy for the most part. There was some from Higgs back to the other two, about misstatements or something. I don't know. I did find what was really interesting to me was the final closing remarks, and it did show a stark difference. But with Higgs' final remark, he started out by saying, "It's not about whether you like me or not," and I thought that was interesting. But that's all he said. Whether he's hearing about his likability from voters, or whether it's from his members of the legislature, or whether he knows that could be an issue. Likability is a key factor on why people vote, for good or for bad. Mm-hmm. And so that was very interesting, and we'll see how that'll continue to play out. And then the other thing that was interesting that came up was the HST cut, the cut to the HST, when Susan Holt said that, which was striking to me, that promise by the Progressive Conservatives will be like $400 to $500 million. And in the question, we were told that the next 2 years there's only a surplus of 40 million. So that 450 million has to come from within existing government services. So I think there was a bit of a missed opportunity by the opposition parties to nail or to point to Higgs and ask him directly, where is he going to get the money to pay for that? And what Higgs kind of alluded to was innovation in healthcare, and I've always understood that to be cuts. So we'll see.
Well, and Susan Holt did bring it up there just very briefly that maybe that means more privatization. I thought that was very strategic, especially maybe as an opposition, but you throw that out there and then see if the bait would be bid onto, but it wasn't really. But she did bring that up briefly, that where's that 450? And because Blaine Higgs said, New Brunswickers knows best how to spend their own money rather than government. And then she shot back and said, maybe that means privatization, more privatization in the healthcare. But that does bring up more questions.
It does, yeah. I was asked today on Power Politics. The host asked the panelists about that promise of the HST cut, and of course, as progressive conservatives, we don't mind a good tax cut now and again, but I did agree that it does leave a big hole in a budget somewhere. But having been in government over the last 6 years and in cabinet and out of cabinet, we've never heard the proper surplus
exactly
accurately for a number of years. It always changes from quarter to quarter, and then at the end of the year, all of a sudden we've had this big surplus. So I'm not convinced that there's more surplus there than we know. I'm not convinced that there isn't. More surplus there than we even know. I think that there probably is. The cash on hand was flush in the province, so we've had a substantial surplus over the last few years. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more wiggle room there to use up. And I wouldn't be shocked if we don't really hear too many more commitments from Blaine. He's not a committer like at campaign time for the most part. So I was also shocked to see $500 million in HST cut 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks before the campaign even started.
Yeah, because he always said that he was never going to do
buy elections,
never do old style politics. And we do have a comment from Troy Lifford, former MLA and minister under David Alward. He says on Facebook comments that the biggest gaffe was Higgs failing to outright denounce the offensive flyers in people's mailboxes, a missed opportunity for him. Otherwise, it was an uneventful debate. I don't think it moved the needle. And as Jack said, debates have never been about the decided Most of the people that always used to go to the local debates were already decided.
Exactly.
But it
Supporters,
really
campaign supporters.
it does help for the undecided. That's what this is for. And there is of course, a large number of what is it, close to 30% that are undecided. And after the first week, I think people will even more start focusing on the future they want for New Brunswick. So there are supposed to be some other debates coming up as well. Rogers and CTV, I think, are in the works if the party leaders agree.
Well, I think that'll be great because this first one is like Jody, you said, this gets people aware. There's still a lot of people out there, maybe not in tune as much on the election and paying attention. So if anything, this will get a good primer for people to, get a hold of the issues and really get in tune with this election. I mean, it's quite a significant election, and it's a lot of eyes on it as well.
Yeah.
Well, I thought if you think of the healthcare, the one of the issues, the numbers I was surprised at was the 180,000 people without a family doctor. I was surprised that the premier came out and said that that's a made up number, because I really didn't know. I posted something on Twitter a few weeks ago from the New Brunswick Medical Society of that number, and I was very surprised to hear about that was a made up number, and not sure, he didn't know where that number came from. So that was a bit, I'd like to look into that a little more, because that raised my intrigue on that.
Well, the problem I see with that, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, no, I thought you said, what's that?
Oh, yeah, no. Well, the problem I see with those numbers is that different organizations, the Health Council is quoting a number, the New Brunswick Health Link is quoting a number of people's registered with the Health Link, the Medical Society is given a number. I think one person too many without primary health care is too many. One person is just too many anyways.
Yeah.
If they need health care, they should be able to get it. If it's 50,000, if it's 180,000, if it's 100,000, that's just the numbers are way too big. And, we've tried in government to fix the issues and just haven't been able to pull it off. And the number just continues to grow. And it's going to be a real big issue as we move on through the next few years. And I think probably the number you shared, Jack, is an accurate one from that organization. I think was that from the Medical Society or Health Council?
Medical Society.
Right. And the one that Jeff Thompson quoted today on Twitter was from the Health Link. Well, of course, that's from the Health Link, because that's who's registered to be on the Health Link waiting for a doctor. But I can tell you what, you guys know, being elected, try to find out a proper number on the Health Link or on the Patient Connect. It's like pulling out hen's teeth. You're not going to get an accurate number from those guys. They never give you an accurate number. I'm not sure they keep accurate numbers.
Just like DTI's asset management plan.
Asset management plan, that's right. Yes.
Now,
so if the Medical Society publishes a number and they say it's 180,000, I don't think we should question their credibility, but maybe they need to come up with and publish the number. Maybe it is published. I don't know.
Joe, what were you
I
saying?
guess I guess the premier didn't give us any alternate number to go by.
No.
So
good point.
Anyways,
no. Talked about Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah.
So okay. So
but what I want to know is,
yes,
does the Liberals have a full slated candidate, but do the PCs currently have a full slated candidate? Did they get them all appointed? I was told there was maybe still 4 or 5 that they haven't filled yet, candidates this first week in.
I think they were down to 3 needed still. I think there's a Zoom nomination tonight. Why that ever happens, I don't know these days, but so we'll leave the PC still short too, probably up in Shippigan area. Well, Caracat, Shippigan. So
to me, that's surprising. Or
it is.
It's not surprising on one hand because of
no, it's not.
But it's on the other hand, it's disappointing, or at least it's something that I don't know if it's ever happened for the PC party in modern day politics to not have a full provincial slate
at the beginning.
At the beginning,
and then only have, I'm assuming, they can't get people to run, and that's why there's a delay. Anyways,
well, some of those northern ridings, it's the president of the riding associations, which we know is a default that you have to have somebody on the ballot.
Yeah. And a lot of times you just plunk people in anyway. A lot of times maybe it's not from the beginning right now, but in the past you'd plunk people in if you couldn't get a candidate, and especially in the weaker ridings. The only unfortunate thing is you can vote every single day. So and when you don't have your candidate in the spot, then you're missing opportunities to gain some votes. I don't know when the deadline is. Next week, I believe.
I think it's October the 1st.
October 1st. Okay. Monday, Tuesday.
Well, speaking of voting every day, people still don't know that you can go vote every day. Even right now, you can go to your local returning office, get your vote done.
Yeah.
I think we should say you can vote any day, not every day, because we can't go vote every day. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But any day of the week,
once a day, but
6 days a week, any returning office is open. You can go there, and as long as you have your proof of address and that you're a citizen of Canada, you can vote, and they'll transfer your vote to your own riding returning office.
You can go to any returning office in any riding of the province.
Right.
You can go to your own returning office and vote, or any office in the province.
Yeah.
So,
and for a list of returning offices, the addresses should be on electionsnewbrunswick.ca website. And I've used it for constituents that were away working in other parts of the province, and they would call my campaign office and say, "Where can I vote? Won't be home on election day." And say, "Look, just go." And we'd look it up, the address, and just go over there. And people are more than accommodating. They want your vote. They want to take your vote.
Well, we always encourage people in our campaigns to get our supporters. If you're already identified, you already have your mind made up, get out and get voted. And that's one less person the campaign team has to contact to see if you're going to get out vote. Or sometimes life happens and you can't get out to vote on election day. So get it in the ballot, and then it's done. Of course, a lot of times campaigns want the votes in early in case something happens later on in the campaign that may switch people's minds, but that's all part of the strategy. So, but the big thing is more and more, well, actually, I think it was 2006 was the first time that people were allowed to vote any day during the election. But it's like Jody said, people still don't know that you can vote any day, I guess 6 days a week at any returning office in New Brunswick. So,
well, we have MLAs from the last election that didn't know.
A question from Nora Valentino.
Yes,
comments.
Saw that.
She
Did you
says,
like to ask it, Jode?
Let me read it out.
You read it. That's what you read it.
She says, does Jeff find it odd not to be running in this election? Jeff, how do you feel about not running in this election? Is it odd to you?
It is. For the first few days, it felt very odd. Even the few days leading it up to the writ issued, it felt very odd because you're in this, there's certain things you need to be doing. And you guys know this too, because you've done it for years and years. And we've been doing this for almost 30 years. So, but as a candidate, it does feel odd because there's nothing that I find more exciting than campaigning, especially as a candidate, and having a good team around you and strategizing your signs and your locations and getting your campaign office open and having those signs go out first thing, either that morning of or right after midnight the night before, and having them all straight and level and plumb and all that. So it is Nora. It's a little weird. It's a little strange not running now, but more than that, just being involved really, really in depth as we were for so many years. But it's also a little refreshing to have us take a sit back after 3 decades of campaigning heavily, not just with provincial elections, but with federal campaigns and municipal as well. It's a lot. It's fun. If you're organized properly, it's a lot of fun. But it's good to have a little rest this time and just watch and see how other people do it and watch it from the outside and just watch what's going on in the broader campaign. When, as a candidate, you're not watching all the other ridings so much. You're not watching the leader's bus every day. You're just you're doing your thing.
Door to door, talking to constituents.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a call coming in from Bathurst. It's probably a political campaign looking to see how I'm going to vote or something like that.
Yeah, polling.
But anyway, I'm not even going to touch the screen. I'm just going to let it go off on its own.
Yeah, well,
put them on the air.
Put them on the air. That would be funny.
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need 2 minutes of your time.
I'm not technically savvy enough to do that.
This is my first time being an observer in a long time, and it's kind of what you said, Jeff. It's refreshing in a way too to look at from a different perspective. A lot of times, especially early on, and we 1995. I remember it took us all campaign pretty much to get our signs up
Hmm.
uh, for Jode, and it was quite a history, really. Almost 30 years ago in that campaign, and back then Jode was a minority. The youngest, one of the youngest people candidates in
Candidates,
history, and
yeah.
then in 1999, one of the youngest ever elected
I think we might have
candidate.
lost him, Jack.
What's that? Oh,
You're gonna have to
maybe.
keep an eye for him there to see if he
Oh,
tries to get back in. I think he might have.
oh, okay. I'll keep an eye out for him to see if
Yeah,
he
we'll keep
joins
an eye
back
out.
in.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he
Okay.
was. He would have been one of the youngest in 95. He was only 19,
Yeah,
18, 19 years old.
we were 19 years old, and Jode persevered. Actually, he was the top PC candidate in Fredericton region of the eight candidates. He was the top
Top vote
candidate of
getter.
the PC candidates. He had 30% of the vote, and we thought that was pretty darn good, 30%,
Hmm. Hmm.
and something to build upon. They were going to bring in a parachute candidate in 1995, and Jode said, "I think I can give this a shot. We don't want someone from outside the riding," and so he
Hmm.
did, and then ran again in 1999. But as you mentioned,
Hmm.
Jeff, 30 years of running in
Hmm.
campaigns, our family, our friends, our campaign supporters. There's so many over the years. A lot of
Hmm.
them have left us now. They're
Some
looking
have
down
passed
and
on. Hmm.
passed on, looking down, and but a lot of days and nights and long hours, and just
Hmm.
something, it's a passion to help people and meet people, and
Well, and we didn't come by camp the ability to the formula for campaigning by accident. We had some really good people, I guess, training us, influencing us, mentoring us. To see our Aunt Luann is on watching there tonight, and she was a big part of our campaigns and showed us the way and how to do it with her boss Bruce. And we just didn't reinvent that wheel going through. Maybe reinvented through with technology and different ways to reach voters, but there's just a simple formula, and those people were a big part of it. But
Mm,
but yeah, as this campaign was getting going, I was thinking about a lot of people that had helped on various campaigns over time that just aren't with us anymore, and the time and the dedication they would put into it, and the effort, and we're just so grateful because without them we would never have been elected that this many times. So you can't do it without a good group of volunteers.
no, and I see Stephanie Moore making a
Yes.
comment there. Dad, Ray Vogan, Stephanie's dad, Ray, loves supporting us. And he
Hmm.
was a huge supporter of Keith Ashfield before we got
Yep.
elected. And then, of course, I ran over here in New Maryland and got to work with Barb and Ray. And then, Jeff, you did too in 2014. And Ray
Yep.
worked and Barb as well.
Oh,
They worked day and
yep.
night right
I
into the
just,
ground. Many of us did right into the ground to help our candidates and help our
I know.
cause. And of course, people of all political stripes on their own teams, but specifically, big shout out to Stephanie and Barb, and thinking about Ray this time of year. I remember
Yep.
election night. Was it your election night, Jeff, or mine? I think it was yours. We wanted to go to Ray and Barb's. Must have been
Yeah.
2014 and watch the
It was
results.
14.
You could do that.
And
Did you do that in
Kathy and
2018
I
too?
went, Kathy and I went over in 18 as well,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
watched it with Barb. Hmm.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And I see that our Aunt Luann has made a comment. She's been there
Hmm.
right from the beginning in 1995 with, Mom and Ellen and the whole gang. But Luann really, just as well worked herself into the ground for us. She was
Yeah.
campaign manager for Jody in 2003.
2003, I
Yeah.
remember her and Malcolm were co-managers,
Yes.
Malcolm Bennett, and there would be many nights that they would be there well past midnight, making sure
Yeah.
voters lists were ready and call lists were ready and walk lists and sign lists. Just worked it, and it's very hard to find people like that will dedicate that kind of time, um, because that's what you need as a campaign manager. That type of person. Ray did it for me. Bernie did it
Yeah.
for me. Brandon did it for me for 3 times, and you had a great Lloyd
Mm,
Chambers was a great campaign
it was
manager, and
excellent.
just the dedication and the fire in their belly
Yeah.
to do it. And of course, I was
Well,
campaign manager a couple times for Jode, and it takes the time and effort, but you need those kind of people to get you through. You can't go willy nilly with a part-time campaign manager and 2 or 3 people that think they can do it all on their own, because
mm.
they can't. They just
And
can't.
I mean, we were always big at the more people on the campaign, the better. Like the more volunteers you can
Hmm.
get, then that's like the multi-level marketing. The more people you can get, first off, more hands is light work, but
Hmm.
also the more people you get on board, committed, then they're reaching out to their sphere of influence as well. But did you find it was harder from as the years went on, harder to attract volunteers? And I
It
know every
is.
other organization in the province in Canada hard time attracting volunteers, but did you find it getting harder?
It is, especially in, well, 2020 was the COVID election, and we weren't supposed to be, we didn't have any events. Um, we didn't do much door work at the doors. It was odd, a weird way to do it, but what we really wanted more of was people to make phone calls, volunteer their time, and not a lot of people want to do that any longer.
Mm.
They just don't want to make cold calls, so that was difficult. But it is the number of people available is difficult because now our younger generation is busy, they're working and things like that, and even the middle age group, they're busy and working. So, and our core senior volunteers, they're getting older, and they'll do what they can for you. They'll make a few phone calls, they will do what they can, but I found it more difficult all the time to get people are getting turned off from politics too. They're getting a little cynical. I think the south of the border has kind of ruined it for a lot of people, but anyway, maybe someday we'll throw together an all-star team and
Mm.
see what happens in the future. But it is difficult. But I mean, still, the people that do volunteer for you, they're in it
Well,
for they're passionate. So,
I
was there
remember.
anything you wanted to end on with the debate, or did you think we covered
Oh,
that
I think
pretty
we
good?
covered that. I think we covered it pretty good. I
Good.
think and following on Twitter. I mean, I call it Twitter. Sorry, but it's
It's
just hard to say
X.
X. It's hard to
X.
say X. So
It is.
um, but great. I enjoy on social media. I enjoy the commentary. I enjoy the news. I enjoy all of that on Twitter. I find though that it's very people are passionate.
Hmm.
So on the debate, particularly if you are, a couple of people put it very, very eloquently that if, your favorite leader probably won that debate. So, but people would be on there last night and today, and they're pushing for their leader and their party, and that's great because
Hmm.
that's what we're all about is democracy. But I find it's very intense right now. It's very,
It
very
is.
passionate. People are passionate, and rightly so. But I'm enjoying actually watching it. So it's kind of different to be not a candidate and to be or even having a family member in the
It's a
election,
lot
just
less
to be able to
stress.
watch and observe.
Mom
And I
must Mom must see a big difference this time
well,
around,
I
I
text her
would
last
think.
night. I text her last night. And I think she's enjoying camping and down at the river. And but she said once that's done, then she'll hang out a little bit more because they're trying to get the last little bit of time in. But I would think I tell people too. I said I know one thing. They said, oh, it's different that there's not a car on the ballot. And I said no, but I think my mom's the most relieved,
Hmm.
like all moms, because we got to remember. I mean, those that are still fortunate. Candidates to have their moms or have their spouses or their dads. Um, all candidates are human, and they do have, if they're fortunate enough to have a mom or a dad, and that still care for them, right? So,
Hmm.
I guess, like they said,
Hmm.
is I think about people like my mom and Nan
Hmm.
and others. Nan's not with us now, but they always would worry. And I'd go and have lunch, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just Jeff was in the news, or Jode was in the news, or if I was in the news." So it's a little
I
bit of
know.
a break for our family
Hmm.
members.
Yeah.
I was just
So
seeing
Nora
here.
asked a pretty good question that not a lot of people. I
Oh
think there's
yes,
probably a lot of people that ask the same question: Is Jeff
right.
still the MLA until the election is over? No. When the election is called, uh, the premier of the day goes to the lieutenant governor's office and asks her to dissolve the legislature because he is calling an election for New Brunswick. It's a fixed election date. So she did that. Lieutenant Governor Brenda Murphy called that election. And when that happens, when dissolution happens, when the legislature is dissolved, there are no MLAs. Everybody so my time was up on Thursday, just passed a week ago today. So that's what happens. We don't become MLAs, or we're no longer MLAs, and that happens for the writ period. So on October 21st, the new government will be elected. Um, and then probably 2 weeks, a week or 2 weeks after that, all the MLAs that are elected will be sworn in, and then they officially become the MLA. So between now and then, government is put into what's called the caretaker mode, and what that means is they can't make any big decisions on spending, on money. But the cabinet and the premier are still part of executive council, in case there is a need for cabinet to meet to function so that government continues to function. But other than that, nobody is a member of the legislature right now. So, but I see you mentioned about my sign at the Grand Harvey Center. Yeah, eventually those signs will all come down. I think the one at Tri-County if it hasn't come down yet, it's going to be coming down, but they will adjust those things. And it'll take time, and then I'll just be a figment of everybody's imagination after that.
You'll be old.
Jack, you went through it, Jack, and Jody went through it too. So,
yep. No,
thank you for that question, Nora, because that's people ask those questions all the time, and I still have people reaching out to me, mostly DMs through social media, asking for advice on, point them in the right direction for departmental work, not realizing I'm not the MLA any longer. I do have an out of office response on my email, my government email, saying that the election was called last Thursday, and I'm no longer the MLA, and thank you for all the support over the years. So that'll remain active for another week or two, and then that email address will be gone.
So now what will you do? What do you do with people who have inquiries in the riding right now? Do you just tell them, look, hold tight, we're in the middle of an election, and then there will be a new MLA? Or do you kind of keep a little mental note for that and do a little list? Or?
No, it depends on what they're looking for. If it's something urgent, I just direct them to Google whatever email address or whatever deputy minister or whoever on the government website.
Okay.
There's lots of contact information on there, and the problem is you never get an answer as quick as you do usually through an MLA's office, at least on getting your message forwarded to government. So that's kind of the conundrum that people are in right now. If they rely on their MLA's office and the MLA's constituency assistant, I know Rosie was really good at that, but that's about the best I can do for them. I mean, no bureaucrat or senior civil servant really has to answer me if I called them or emailed them and forwarded on information anyway, because I'm technically just a civilian, not a citizen, but anyhow,
they're there for civilians.
If you have an issue and people, if you have issues and you can't find the right number to call, just, maybe even just Google it there's a search engine on GMB website. If you type in the keywords, sometimes it'll direct you to different news releases, and that'll direct you to a government department. But I think that's what we always kind of prided ourselves on
contact your government candidate as well.
Yeah, contact your candidates. Exactly. See what they have to say about it.
But I still, even after 10 years of not being elected, I'll get people contact me about certain things, and then I'll just say, contact Jeff. No, just joking. But sometimes I will say that. But sometimes I'll say, just here's the number for such and such, or no, you have to do such and such. And just kind of, it's always great to be able to help people and direct them. We just can't advocate for them any longer. That's all. No. We don't have that role. We don't play that role to advocate for them any longer. But maybe someday we'll play a role in a different, as a public figure, somehow volunteering for nonprofits, and then we can be an advocate that way. Jody's wife, Krista's a great advocate for different disability issues. So, I mean, there's roles there in different ways we can do things. But all our contacts over the years is just networking and problem solving and connecting people. If people are just tuning in, you're watching the Carr Brothers show. It's episode 120. Jody was with us for the first 25 minutes, the first 20 anyway, and then he must have had his phone must have died or something. I'm not sure. He hasn't tuned back in. We lost him. Just right off on the press, he says his phone is charging, so maybe he'll get back in there with us. So anyway, we'll see if he'll keep joining us. But we're actually enjoying the show. It's been a good show, and good to get back. Next week we'll be on CHCO. Actually, this episode will be broadcasted on CHCO TV as well. So very thankful to have Patrick and Vicky and the gang at CHCO that had us on for. This is getting into our fifth season. So for 120 shows, we've been on CHCO primarily. So they've been good to us.
Yep. And we've moved locations in Fredericton. We were, I think we probably mentioned it many times on on the show that we were in a studio in over Marysville in the Alexander Gibson, I think Alexander Gibson, the old school there, the
Mm-hmm.
Ville it was called. And so we've moved locations and moved our set to another location. So, we ran into a couple of technical glitches getting the camera set up and lighting and things like that. But Jack, you're sitting in that location. It's turned out quite well for you. It looks
Yeah,
pretty good. We
it's
just moved
coming.
our old set over there and put it together this week, and
Mm-hmm.
it's looking pretty good. The sound is great there. So it's good. No,
Yeah,
we took a break for the summer, as everybody knows, and the summer went by so fast.
yeah,
Oh
it
my
did.
goodness, it
Well,
went so quick, but
I was looking at the shows, and well, what show number are we at? Oh, 120. Well, 119, I believe it was with Tim Porter, our last show, and it was in June 6th or something like that. I'm like, where'd the time go? Here we
mhm,
are into September now. So
I know. So we're looking at lining up some really good guests, but we're going to I think we'll focus on the campaign as we go through and just try to highlight some things for people. And Blaine's biggest announcement so far was a 2% cut in the HST. And that was done prior to the campaign started, but he's re-announced that a couple times, and that's going to happen over 2 years. $500 million is what it's going to cost, which is a substantial amount of money. 2%, the HST doesn't apply to everything that you purchase, but 2% for low income spenders, let's say, isn't a lot, but it's something.
mm,
And he's made that commitment. He talked the other day about expanding some roles of some healthcare providers, which is stuff that had been worked on
in the
anyhow over
works.
time, and we've expanded the roles of pharmacists and advanced care paramedics and things like that. So, going to continue on with that. But boy, Susan Holt's really been hitting hard on affordability and healthcare, and I can see why. It worked for Tim Houston in Nova Scotia. Every day of Tim Houston's campaign, the PC leader in Nova Scotia, was a healthcare announcement, basically, and affordability. And it is the crisis of the moment, and in New Brunswick and Canada and North America. So she's probably going to keep hammering on that. Mental health services. She talked about that today, apparently. And David Kuhn is doing
Mm,
he's chiming in with basically the same issues. I mean,
mm.
it's top of mind for everybody is healthcare and mental health
Affordability.
services and affordability and housing. They're where we are. That's where we are right now
Mm.
with the crisis. So that's pretty well all there is to recap as far as campaign announcements for the first week, I believe. Rent caps, rent, housing, and healthcare and taxes.
Mm.
I don't think you'll see a whole lot more than that throughout, but maybe some variations of those. But
Well,
we'll see.
it'll be interesting in the next coming weeks of how to capture the undecided. It's like how to capture people to pay attention.
Hmm.
There's just so many channels. You got this
Hmm.
election, but then you've got, federal politics going on. You got the national going on. Very
Hmm.
difficult to try to capture, especially the undecideds. You got the decideds and you got to try to get them out to the polls and get them out to
Hmm.
vote. But it's the undecideds to really capture and get a little spark
Hmm.
under them.
Hmm.
Especially complacency and things
Hmm.
like that. That's hard to really, really get people convinced that they have to get out and vote, really need their vote. So,
Well,
and
it
I just
is.
say, you look,
How do
go
you
out,
catch their attention, right? How do you
yeah,
make them, how do you attract them to
yeah,
convince them that you're the person?
yeah,
That's the
and
challenge, especially nowadays with all it's got like Ottawa is getting it's getting into silly season there and the
hmm
question periods. I had some people that were in question period watching yesterday and it was chaotic apparently. And you hear the name calling now across the way, and
oh,
now
it's
one of
bad.
the federal MPs was shown on camera making a homophobic slur, and it's just like, just listen to the other people. Now I've been accused of chirping a little bit now and again in the question period, but
It's
nothing
not
like
that
that.
bad.
I mean, no, it's just so people kind of turned off from it a little bit, maybe. So that could be a large part of the undecideds too. They want to know who the
Well,
adult in the room is going to be, who has the opportunity to tackle the challenges that we have right now, who's going to be able to do it and pull it off. That's
well,
the question.
look who
What
we
are you
got
grinning
joining
about?
us. Look who we've
Oh,
got joining us. We
there he
got Jode.
comes.
You're gonna have to turn your phone on straight up there, Jode. You're on sideways. Oh, there you go.
There you are.
What tell us, Joe, what's up, Joe? What happened? We lost you there for a few minutes. Your phone?
Well, I was at the St. John Regional Library.
Yes.
I was
Oh,
down here for a launch of an inclusive education website for
Oh, nice.
Canada. And my phone died. And I went around, I was walking around the library looking for a charger, couldn't find a charger. So I finally did find one in the building at Market Square. I can't
Oh,
tell you where exactly I found it, but I found it. And now we're back on the air, boys.
old Joe Biden walking the hallways there. I can't.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. I'm going to make
Oh.
America great again.
Yes. Yes. So, well, Joe, we were just talking about, we were pretty much done talking about the debate. We were talking some about elections and not, not being on the ballot this time around, and had some comments from, Stephanie Moore and Nora Valentino, and talked a little bit about Luann and Mom and things like that, of all the people over the years that have just their blood, sweat, and tears working on our campaigns. And you can think back, Joe, 1995, we had a small but mighty team, and it just kept growing. And we were talking about how we really strive to get as many people on the team as you could. Not only greater hands make less work, but also their network and sphere of influence. If you had more people on your team, they'd go out and work for you, and then also try to advise others too. And then talk to Jeff about how hard and more difficult to get people involved as well. But Jody, you must think back, 30 years, you were the one that started it there for the Carr Brothers in 1995, and all the hundreds of people that you've run into that have been on the campaign teams.
Yeah, because we always made sure that the election started the day after, the next election started the day after your last election. And you kept building coalitions, supporting everybody, no matter what political party. A big highlight for election campaigning was 2010. Jeff, you were my campaign manager, and I think we won with 82% of the vote. Certainly that was on our tide anyways for changing government. But I notice it is hard to draw. One thing, I guess, it's so visual. There are lawn signs in the communities, so I do find it hard to drive around and not see hardly any. But I think campaigning has changed. People are disconnecting their do not have home phones. I'm not sure if people just aren't saying exactly what they're going to do. I think there's a lot of undecideds in the election. But anyways, there's a lot of dilemma about where to vote. And I've said always that you vote for 4 different reasons. It could be the way you've always voted. You're going to vote for the party. You're going to vote for the leader because you like them. You're going to vote for the platform, or you're going to vote for your local candidate. And sometimes it's a combination. And I guess you have to vote for what you think is best for the future of our province. And, we went into this that many years ago, not really being a stalwart family of PCs. It was a timing thing. I really like the old progressive conservative, where you can be socially progressive, but fiscally conservative. And I think our party has moved away from that. And, but I mean, I was never really a full-fledged kind of I guess it was lifelong, but our grandfather Clayton Boyce was a Liberal and a poll captain, and our grandmother Elsa was involved with the Liberal Party, and our Carr side was more leaning to the PCs, but it's changed. And I think people are doing what they need to do best for the day that they're in, So we always said that we would not forget where we came from, not forget why we got involved, to make a difference for people, to represent.
Did we lose Joe again? Oh, well, he contributes so much.
I guess he talked too much.
He contributes so much to our team. So
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That was a great rendition of just keeping you grounded and why you get involved and why people vote the way they do. And, just the 4 little categories broken down.
Yeah. And people support for different reasons and not support for other reasons as well. And he was talking about, I guess, our family heritage. Half of our family, like our dad's sort of side of the family, were PC.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much active, but on the
Mm-hmm.
campaigns and things. Nan did a little bit, I guess. But then on our mother's side, on our other grandfather's side was liberal. Nan or
Mm-hmm.
Grampy and Grammy Webb worked on the
Grampy
liberal
was very
campaigns.
active. Grampy Voice was
Mm.
very active with the
Yeah.
Liberal Party organizing up in the
Mm.
Junction area, Tracy area, I guess,
Yeah.
from what I'm told.
And Grammy Webb was too involved in the campaigns and things. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we've got a mixture. I bet a lot of New Brunswick families have that. They have one side of the family might be one or the other, and I think more and
Mm-hmm.
more though, it's people are not so much tied to the party. Well, we've seen it in campaigns, Jeff, where longtime liberals would support us because of us as candidates and not necessarily the party. Not
Yep.
for sure, not the party per se, but us as MLAs.
Well,
and
they
as
just wanted
candidates.
they just wanted that local representation. They know they could come to you, and we just didn't, when it came down to it between elections, you just don't care how that person or that family, where they lean or where they support. If they have an issue, their community has an issue, their family has an issue, and that's what we're there to represent. And, we've been called, all kinds of different names and characterized as different people over the last couple of months. And, you don't win. You cannot win by just being
Smear.
But us as candidates, you don't win by only catering to one group, which is just the hardcore PC. Like, you have to work for everybody, and that will reflect on you. But if there's people out there calling us all kinds of liberal names and bleep words in front of it and stuff, and they're very closely connected to the party, the PC party, and it doesn't work. It just won't get you anywhere. The candidates that they're around, it reflects negatively on them, and you don't need to do it to win. You don't need to do that. Concentrate on your own election campaign and get it done. And that's what we did. That's what we always did.
Well, don't get involved in the distraction. Don't get distracted with the negative side of politics and the negative side of people and the distractions and the energy put into that. You got to stay focused. You got to be positive. You got to give people hope. There's a lot of hurting people out there. And, when we're yanging about politics and this and that, well, there's a lot of people that can't afford the time and the energy and the money to yang about that because they're just trying to pay the bills and have a roof over their head and put food on their table. Yep. And that's what majority of New Brunswickers want to see is how can we help them? How can we help our province? How can we move forward and work together? And even in life, you can't knock people down and try to get ahead. Not going to work. And
never work.
We would strive on our campaigns to say, look, let's just keep taking the high road. Take the high road. Don't get involved in that. Don't get involved in the negative smear, because once you get down in there in the mud, then that's where you stay. So
well,
seemed to work for us, but I'd rather do that than and look at people in the eye and put your head on the pillow and know that you're there for everybody. And it just was a great model that Jody started in 95, 99, 2003. And we all strived with that, with our family helping Jody's campaigns and our ancestors with our grandfathers and things like that, just helping people. Can't go wrong. So, let's get a comment here about from Terry Gallant. He said, I voted for you guys because I believed in you, no matter the party or the leader. And Terry's been a huge advocate and supporter of the Carr Brothers show these last few years, but also a friend, and he'll tell you, what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear. And coming from you, Terry, that means a lot, that you voted for us, no matter the party or the leader. So that's nice to hear. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, Jeff, anything you'd like to say on some parting words?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a little bit of a different campaign that we're seeing here, that a little different than what I think New Brunswickers are used to, obviously. I think when you hear, I think when people hear different promises or secondhand, third-hand information about what this MLA is saying or that one is saying, just reach out to their party, their campaign office, do a search on press releases, make sure you get the factual information on the issues of the day. Don't take it for second or third-hand info of what somebody else thought they heard. That's important. Going to be really important for this campaign. And I guess, if people have questions about the election and how to go about going to polling stations and doing whatever, our DMs are open. Send us a message, and we've tried to help. But there's a lot of information on the Election of New Brunswick website. And like I say, the returning office for Sunbury Ormocto, which is the Ormocto Burton Gary Parter Gornish Hoyt and whatever. There's a returning office in the Sour Grape building. Patty Nason is a returning officer in there. She's very good at her job.
You're in good hands.
She runs a well-oiled machine. If you're in the Ormocto area, go find that office if you want to vote. I'm not sure where the Fredericton ones are, but you can find that on the Elections New Brunswick website. The returning office for Hamilton and Maryland is the Masdrell settlement. Why on earth it's way out there? Maybe they couldn't find other office space. I don't know. But like I said, you can go to other returning offices and vote. Just have your ID with you, and they will make sure your vote gets transferred to your own riding. Until the deadline for candidate nominations passes, you will have to write the person's name you want to vote for on the ballot. That's how that goes. So be very careful what you write when you write that person's name out. I don't know how the scrutineers or the returning officer staff determine if a mistake is made on that written ballot, what the wiggle room or the gray area is. I would suppose if you wanted to vote for Mary Wilson and you just put Wilson, well, probably that's fine. Same with Stephen Horseman. If you don't know how to spell Horseman, some people put an E in by mistake. I'm pretty sure that's fine. But if you put Bozo the Clown, it's probably going to go in the shredder or be counted as the spoiled. But So until the nomination date, I think is October the 1st happens. After that date is when they actually print the ballots with the actual name of the candidates on it. So you can go now. Okay. I plan on going early.
Good.
Just habit. We go early.
Well, I want to say
good information.
Yeah, I wanted to say too, Jody left us. His phone died a couple of times, so technical difficulties there. We're going to be back next episode next week, so we'll have more to talk about next week. I wanted to say, Jody said, sorry, guys, connection and power source bad. Love yous all, he mentioned on our comment. So we had a great participation, good turnout of viewers tonight, so we really want to thank everyone on the Carr Brothers Show, episode 20. We'll be back next week with another show. So on behalf of Jode, have a good night. I'm Jack.
And I'm Jeff. Good night, everyone.
Good night.